Welcome back to All Access. Today we will be discussing Rowan spring sports in mid-season form. Justin's back with his sports betting segment. Jackson will be bringing you his picks for the Final Four of March Madness. And then we'll hit the couch with Greg, Jordan, and Sam. All that and more on All Access. Welcome back to All Access, live from Bozarth Hall. We are here to update you on the most relevant stories in sports today. I'm Nick Rizzo.
And I'm Aidan Doherty, and today, if you missed it, there was an earthquake to start the day. And I think that was actually a signing and a warning to the rest of the world that, Nick, the Philadelphia 76ers are back. And it was just a warning. There's more to come.
There's definitely more to come. Last night after the game, big win over Miami Heat. Joel Embiid walks up to Tyrese Maxey. Imagine what we can do. Oh, my God.
Oh, I'm imagining.
Nearly brought me to tears, let me tell you. And what else brought me to tears was watching Kelly Oubre take over in that fourth quarter. He needs to get re-signed. This is a call out to Daryl Morey. Re-sign that man.
Key to the city as well.
Yeah, key to the city as well. He deserves it. But without further ado, let's jump into some Rowan sports. Rowan softball hit it out of the park in their doubleheader against Kane last Friday, winning Game 1 6-0 and Game 2 6-4. Now, who do you think was pitching in Game 1? Of course it was Riley Lutz, who threw a 4-hit shutout with 7 strikeouts as well. Kat Thomas supported her at the plate, going 3 for 4 with a homer and 3 RBIs. The going got tougher in Game 2 as Kane got out to an early 3-0 lead, but the Profs chipped away thanks in large part to 2 hits and 2 RBIs from Liz McCaffrey. Rowan is now 17-5 on the season and has won 11 straight games. They look unstoppable ahead of another NJAC doubleheader against NJCU tomorrow on Saturday.
And staying on the diamond, Rowan baseball started off last weekend with a doubleheader against Kane as well. Just like most of this week, the weather was not perfect. There was some rainfall, but the good news in the game was that Mike Shannon threw a complete game, allowing just 1 run and 11 strikeouts. But the bad news, well, they scored 0 runs. Nolan Rowan, yes, his last name is Rowan, threw a complete game as well, allowing 0 runs and completing the complete game shutout. Game 2 of the doubleheader started off very similar. It was 0-0 until the 6th, where Kane added a run and eventually got it to a 2-0 lead. Catcher Carson Harcourt changed that with a 2 RBI double in the 7th. He came around the score thanks to a hit from Anthony Scully right behind him. Phil Sedalis then added a long ball in the 8th, and the Profs hung on 4-2. And in other news, their games got canceled this week. Monday postponed, yesterday postponed, today postponed. And like Doc Rivers said when he got the Bucks job, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. But the Profs are 13-4 and ranked at 10 in D3 baseball. But Mother Nature is undefeated so far this season.
Both men's and women's track and field participated in the Danny Curran Invitational last weekend, and there was plenty of success for both teams. For the men, Demetrius Hester stole the show, moving up to number 2 in all of Division III in the javelin, with Tommy Flanagana moving up to number 9. In the 110-meter hurdles, Kwaku Nkrumah and Marquise Young showcased the best 1-2 punch since Jordan and Pippen, separated by just 1/10 of a second for the top 2 spots. The women also lit up the leaderboards, with Nevaeh Lord-Juice taking first in the 400-meter, which is good for number 3 in Division III. Izzy Deal took first in the javelin, and PRs were hit by Jasmine Pope, Jess Rogers, and Gianna Bergio in various events. If we learned anything from this meet, it's that both the men and women will be making a strong appearance in nationals at the end of the season.
In some bad news, the women's lacrosse struggles have continued. After a week off, they returned to action against Stevenson on the road. The team held a 5-3 lead at the halftime break, but a 5-goal third period from Stevenson allowed them to never look back and eventually win 11-7. Elena Corson, despite the loss, added yet another hat-trick on the season. Fiona Lockhart and Callista Burke were just behind her with 2 apiece, but the squad fell to 3-7, which makes them just 1 loss away from the most regular season losses in program history since 2009. Next game will be a tough one, as they are set to face top 25 ranked Christopher Newport. Rowan sports, though, Nick, I mean, they're always looking good. I hated to end it on a sour note because we were just softball's winning, baseball's winning. You know,
track is lighting it up.
Track is moving at the lightest speed. But sadly, you know, I had to end it on a bad note. But I think Rowan, baseball, and softball, I would be shocked if they weren't playing in late May, mid-May, late May. And then the track team, I mean, we talked about their winter track. I mean, spring track, it's a little warmer out. They're gonna be a little faster.
Absolutely. In baseball and softball, they haven't gotten all the chances in the world to showcase their abilities because, like Aiden said, baseball postponed this week. Softball also had a couple games postponed this week, but nonetheless, they're both in midseason form. They've both been lighting it up, pitching, hitting, the whole 9 yards. So Rowan Spring Sports in a good spot right now, and hopefully that will continue for the next couple weeks. But now let's throw it over to Justin with his popular segment, Double J, Double Down.
What's up, everybody? My name is Justin. Usually I have Jackson right next to me, but don't worry, you'll see him in a bit. Anyway, I'm feeling hot going into this weekend. Here's what I got. For my first bet, I'm going to take NC State to cover the spread versus Purdue here on Saturday night. This line is currently set at +9.5 ahead of their matchup. The Wolfpack have won 9 straight games to reach the Final Four and are led by center DJ Burns Jr., who's averaged 18.3 points per game over the 4 games in the tournament. Burns coming off a dominant 29-point effort against the favored Duke Blue Devils last Sunday night. Purdue is an extremely tall task led by 7'4" center and 2023 National Player of the Year Zach Edey coming off a 40-point, 16-rebound performance versus the Tennessee Volunteers. I believe the Wolfpack will make things close even if they're not able to win their 10th straight game against the #1 seeded Purdue. Now for my second bet. I'm going over to the Diamond Major League Baseball for a pick between the Battle of Texas, between the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers. I'm going with the Texas Rangers +1.5 as I believe the Rangers are bound to take down the Astros at home, as the Astros have started 2-5 after being swept by the Yankees in their first series of the season, but winning 2-3, including a no-hitter against the Blue Jays back on Monday the 1st. The Rangers are starting Cody Bradford, who had a 5-inning outing with a win and 6 strikeouts against the Chicago Cubs. He is looking to go 2-0 against the Astros, who scored 19 runs combined over the last 3 games against Toronto, but I feel like it's going to stop in this series. Now let's hear Jackson's thoughts on the highly anticipated Final Four games tomorrow night.
I'm Jackson, and as Justin just said, tomorrow night is a men's Final Four. I'm here to tell you how these next few games will pan out. So let's start over here with UConn versus Alabama. Alabama, high-flying offense, loves to go super fast. I just think UConn is a much better all-around put-together team. They have a better center, who Bama really doesn't have a position to match up with him. And their guard play is much better as well. I understand Bama shoots the ball really well, but I think UConn will move on here pretty well. Despite all they've had to battle through this week with flight issues and getting into Arizona late, I still think they'll come out strong and beat Alabama. On the other side, Purdue versus Cinderella NC State. The matchup here to talk about is Zach Edey versus DJ Burns. DJ Burns is America's center. Everybody loves him. A big man with a little spin, a little touch. He can do it all, and everybody loves him. But I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news. I think Zach Edey's going to destroy him. He's 7'4". He's way bigger, way stronger. I think he's going to be too much for DJ Burns. And I also think that the Purdue guards, who are the #1 shooting three-point team in the country, are going to be a little too much for NC State. So I'm going to have Purdue moving on to the national championship. So we have UConn versus Purdue, national championship in Scottsdale. I'm going to go with Purdue. I know unpopular pick here. UConn should go back-to-back. That's what everybody thinks they're going to do, but I'm going to have to back Purdue here for a couple reasons. I think Edey is going to be the toughest matchup down low that UConn will face all year long, and I think he'll end up solidifying the paint, and I think he'll be too much. Also, like I talked about before, the Purdue guards, they're very old. They've been here before. They're very mature, and they shoot well. They make smart decisions. They don't turn the ball over. I think that'll be a difference. The big man, smart guards who don't turn the ball over. So I Purdue beating UConn in Scottsdale on Monday. Now let's kick it over on the couch with Sam, Greg, and Jordan.
I'm Greg Mazzo. Alongside me to my right is Sam Prince, and to my left is Jordan Weisiger. And we have quite a bit to discuss today, starting off with women's college basketball. Caitlin Clark has been lighting up women's college basketball this season, especially in the tournament. How has Caitlin Clark changed the game of women's basketball? And also, how will game transform into the WNBA? Sam, we'll start with you first.
Well, it's been a pleasure to watch Caitlin Clark and the rest of the NCAA women's college basketball tournament this year. But I think her game is going to translate just fine in WNBA. I think she's going to win multiple MVPs and win championships.
I agree as well. It's not much of a debate here. Caitlin Clark is one of the greatest women's college basketball players of all time. She's a dog, to quote Alex Verdugo. I just love her game, and it's going to be a big game tonight against UConn in the Final Four.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark has definitely been tearing it up. She's just been amazing to watch. Everything about her game is just tremendous. But moving on to our next topic, with the MLB season a weekend, what are some of your biggest takeaways that has happened this far? Esther Ruiz getting optioned to the minors, Ronel Blanco's no-hitter against the Toronto Blue Jays. Any specific teams that have caught our attention? Jordan, we'll start with you on this one.
My biggest surprise is really the A's and what they're doing with their organization. They're moving the team to Sacramento, but still being called the Athletics. It's pretty disappointing to hear that. And optioning Esther Ruiz, who's probably one of your best hitters so far, to AAA, and he stole 70 bases last year. It's very interesting, and I wonder what they're doing out there in Oakland.
I think if you want to talk about surprises so far that's got my attention, it's got to be the Marlins' terrible start, because they were a playoff team last year. You know, you wouldn't think this team would be winless or have one win now. You would think they would have 4 to 5 wins and be a better team and be at least competitive in the NL East. But, I mean, you got to think they're going to have a fire sale at the trade deadline. They're going to trade Jazz and maybe Sandy.
That's where I disagree with you, Sam. The Marlins only won around the mid-80s in games last year. The fall-off was kind of expected. You have no Sandy Alcantara. Yuri Perez was just announced for Tommy John surgery. It's not surprising the Marlins are struggling. I'm surprised they're 0-8.
Yeah,
but
I'll give you the struggle. It's the 0-8.
The slow start is expected, in my opinion. They just don't have the offense, especially losing Jorge Soler to San Francisco. You can't bring in that kind of production RBI-wise with the current talent you have in your roster.
Yeah, no. I mean, the Marlins, I didn't think they'd be back in the playoffs, but this bad, I'll give you that one.
All right, one more question I want to ask you guys real quick. Any teams that didn't make the playoffs last year or even so far this year that you guys really like to possibly see like a surprise team? You know, we saw Arizona last year. We saw the Texas Rangers. Both of those teams go to the World Series. So are there like any surprise teams you guys really like this season?
There is one surprise team I really like, and they are out of the AL Central. The Kansas City Royals. The Kansas City Royals are going to make the playoffs. Bobby Witt Jr. and the rest of this team is going to take a big jump. They're going to not only make the playoffs, but they're going to win the AL Central, this weak Central. They're going to beat up on division teams.
That's a good take. I personally have the Guardians winning that division, but my surprise team to make the playoffs that didn't last year is the San Diego Padres. I think they have a very competitive roster. I think last year there was a lot of chemistry issues with that team, but they still have a lot of guys. Hyun-Sung Kim, Xander Bogaerts, Tatis Jr., I mean, and the pitching staff is still phenomenal. They did lose Blake Snell. They did lose Josh Hader, but they still have Yu Darvish. They still have Joe Musgrove. They traded for Dylan Cease. It's a team that can make a run in a very competitive NL West, and I can see them sneaking in at a 5 or 6 wild card spot.
I also personally have the Padres in the playoffs. I have them the second wild card.
I respect that. That's where I have them about.
You know, baseball season's a marathon, not a sprint. There's going to be a lot of crazy things that go on this season. There's going to be hot streaks. There's going to be slumps. It's going to be interesting to see what happens down the road of this season. I'm Greg Mazzo. To my right, Sam Prince. To my left, Jordan Weisiger. And we'll see you next week on All Access.